Another thing that you should consider when developing a dynamic speech topic is thinking about your audience. So, you're going to be giving a speech to a group of people, so you might as well consider them. I mean, if you were just wanting to talk, you could just talk to yourself and not really be looking for any of that feedback or what impact it has on other people. So, really think about how much your audience matters in picking that speech topic. So, you might be thinking about expanding their knowledge. So, what do you think that they already know about your topic so that you are not going too basic? There's nothing worse than when you go into a company meeting or something and everybody already knows everything that's being said in the meeting and they feel like they just have to sit through it and it's really boring, as opposed to when somebody is saying new ideas or asking you to generate things, sharing something for you to ponder, then that's what is really exciting. So when you're thinking about developing these speech topics, think about what do they already know about this subject? And how can I avoid being too redundant or going over something that everybody knows? Okay, next is thinking about the application. So, is it some kind of life hack or something where you are picking a speech topic that they're going to be able to apply it in their life? Really showcase that. Tell people why they should be listening to your speech topic. So, that could be in even the speech purpose that you mentioned to your audience. Hey, the purpose of this is to make it so that you know how to watch out for these things in the future, or you're able to enter into these conversations. Um, you're able to apply this in the next few years. So give us some kind of thing for why did you pick this for us to learn about or hear about? Because if we don't see any application to our life, it seems kind of just, okay, I guess you can talk about it. So really think about it. All right. And then thinking about what interests you know that they have or they might have. So, what things have you heard other people talking about that they're like, I really wish I knew more about this or could find out about this? You could be that person. So, you can showcase what things people are already interested in and go from there. Or you can think about, what would make this the most interesting? So instead of just going with the basic data that maybe is just easy to find, go into the stuff that's more interesting. So are they interested in how you tell stories about it? Do they like facts? Do they like statistics? Do they like hearing kind of key takeaways? What is it that would really interest your audience about the topic or even the topic in general? So, how do you frame it? And then thinking about bringing it to the values. So, how does it align with the values that they already have or are developing? So, maybe they want to go further into it. So, maybe they really value the environment, but they don't know what are the next steps. Maybe they just know the basics. So, how can you dive deeper into these topics that people are already into? How can you uphold your values with this and really showcase that for the audience and maybe enlist them with more values that they could be engaged with? So, really thinking about what kind of value system are you tapping into when you are choosing this speech topic? And that also makes you choose deeper topics that will engage people. And then thinking about the disposition. This is the trickiest part to kind of go over, but thinking about what does your audience feel about the topic that you might choose? So, what do you do with that information is up to you. But it'll really make a difference in how you frame it, to say the least. So, if people are already positive about a topic, you're really much more likely to tell stories, really get them to engage with it a little bit more, go into the next steps, know that they already know the basics. And so you're able to just create excitement about it and talk about the new things. And so that's when they have a very positive disposition. So, in informative and persuasive speeches, this can be really key when you have an audience to not bore them by going over the same old thing because they're already positive. do the next thing. If they're really uninformed about a topic, then you'll want to really stick to the basics, not spread yourself too thin when you're discussing it, and really think about what do they need to know versus what is maybe interesting or too deep for them at that point. So if you're talking about environmental issues and people are going into microplastics and everything, do they know enough information that you could really go into these strategies if some people are like, what even are microplastics? So, kind of thinking about where are they in that knowledge and what do you do if they aren't that knowledgeable about it? So, kind of going with that. If they're apathetic, that means that there's so many things for us to care about in the world. Maybe they just currently don't care about the topic. Maybe they've kind of heard something about that topic, but they haven't invested. So when you are framing the topic or thinking about these things, you want to think about how to make it as real for them as possible and engage with them, make it local, make it less abstract, maybe get them to go with hypothetical scenarios, but you're really wanting to think about how to make the topic really come alive. If they are a negative audience, this is the toughest. It's not saying avoid these topics because that is what makes it interesting, especially when we get into persuasive speaking. But you want to think about, okay, if they're a negative audience, how can you meet them where they're at in the beginning? So validate maybe where they are coming from and really think about addressing the issues that come to mind for them. So don't just ignore them. That usually doesn't go well. And when we're doing persuasive speaking, you really don't want to just go, I have this topic. I really feel like everybody should be on board. I'm just going to say why I'm on board with this topic. You really want to think about what barriers are there that make it so that this person isn't already on board, because that's going to make so much more of a difference than saying all the cool things about it or interesting things about it. So, really think about validating where they're at, not dismissing the audience, having some way also, if you can, talk about the transitions from being on the other side to being on your side that you're trying to persuade them to is really good. Really bringing in those key things. Facts and statistics tend to be more persuasive with a negative audience than stories because they can see them as bias, but use it as you will. And then thinking about asking for an actual key thing at the end when you're trying to persuade people, especially when they're negative. They may need the further push of commitment if you're persuading them to another side. So, really think about when that comes up for the negative disposition, even in informative speeches, how can you soft walk them into those topics that they might automatically block their ears towards? So, kind of thinking about how the disposition really makes a difference in how you frame your topic, how you go about going through the information as you're developing it. And I hope that is all useful when you're thinking about developing a dynamic speech topic, keeping your audience in mind.